Welcome back to Crime Time Inc. This time, we're taking a look at AI and crime.
Interesting.
Not like, AI becoming some criminal mastermind.
Ah, okay.
More like how it's being used by law enforcement.
Yeah.
To prevent crime, detect it, investigate it, the whole thing.
It's changing the landscape, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We've got research papers on how AI is being used to predict crime.
Mm-hmm.
We've got info from the tech companies who are actually building these AI tools.
Fascinating stuff.
And news articles about real-world cases where AI has already been used.
Makes you think, huh?
Absolutely. It's a lot to unpack, but I think it's important to understand how AI is changing the way law enforcement works.
No doubt about it. We're seeing AI emerge as this, really powerful tool.
In the fight against crime, you mean?
Exactly. The potential is huge.
Like how? What can AI do that's so special?
Well, think about it. AI can process information way faster than we can.
Yeah, that's true.
It can spot patterns we might miss. And it can even, in some cases, predict criminal activity.
Wait, predict? Like before it happens?
Exactly. That's where things get really interesting.
So how does that work? Can you give me an example?
Sure. Take a company like PredPol, for example.
PredPol.
I haven't heard of them.
They use AI to forecast where and when crimes are most likely to occur.
By looking into the future.
Not exactly. They use historical crime data.
Oh, so they're looking for patterns.
Right. They analyze past crime data to identify hotspots, areas where crime is more likely to occur.
So they're using AI to predict the future based on the past.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
It's a form of predictive policing.
That's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
It can be. But it's also being used to save lives.
Really? How?
Think about gunshot detection technology like ShotSpotter.
ShotSpotter, yeah.
They use sensors to detect gunshots and instantly alert law enforcement.
I see. So police can respond faster.
Exactly. It can be critical in those situations.
Oh, that does make sense. Okay, so we've got crime prediction, gunshot detection.
What about facial recognition? I know that's being used more and more.
Absolutely. Companies are using AI-powered cameras for all sorts of things.
Like what?
Facial recognition, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
But also license plate reading, detecting unattended bags, you name it.
So it's like a whole new level of surveillance.
You could say that, yes.
And is it actually working? Is AI making a difference in crime rates?
Some cities are reporting some pretty impressive results.
Like what?
Well, Tacoma, Washington, for example.
Okay.
They saw a significant drop in burglaries after using PredPol.
How much of a drop are we talking about?
Like 22%.
Wow, that is significant.
Any other examples?
Sea Point, South Africa. They implemented an AI camera system and saw crime decrease by, wait for it, 65%.
65%. That's incredible.
Yeah. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right. What about the downsides?
Well, there's the whole issue of privacy, for starters,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the potential for bias in these systems.
Let me give you an example. There was a case in Europe. A bank wanted to use AI to monitor social media accounts.
Monitor social media, what for?
They wanted to use it as part of their risk assessment for mortgage applicants.
Seriously.
Yeah, but there was such a public outcry that they had to backtrack.
I can see why. That's a bit creepy.
It raises a lot of ethical questions, doesn't it?
It does. So it seems like there's this tension between the potential benefits of AI and the potential risks.
Exactly. That's the crux of it.
So how do we strike the right balance? How do we use the power of AI without sacrificing our privacy and our rights?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And it's something we need to think about carefully as AI continues to evolve. Let's move on to a different aspect of AI in law enforcement. Real-time crime centers. How is AI changing the way police work on a daily basis?
Well, imagine a room
Okay.
full of analysts monitoring live feeds from all over the city.
Like surveillance cameras.
Exactly, but also social media, traffic cameras, all sorts of data streams.
And it's all powered by AI.
Right. They use AI to analyze all that data in real time.
Wow. That sounds like something out of a movie.
It's becoming more and more common. They use something called anomaly detection.
Anomaly detection. What's that?
Basically, it means the AI is looking for anything unusual.
Like what?
A sudden crowd gathering, a car speeding away from a possible crime scene, anything that deviates from the normal pattern.
So the AI is helping them sift through all that data and pinpoint what needs immediate attention.
Exactly. It's like having an extra set of eyes, but way faster and more efficient.
That makes sense. But is AI only looking at visual data, or can it analyze other things too, like social media, for example?
Oh, absolutely. They use natural language processing, NLP for short,
NLP.
to scan social media posts, online forums, all sorts of text data.
Looking for what?
Keywords that suggest criminal activity. Threats, hate speech, things like that.
So it's like a digital detective scouring the internet for clues.
You could say that, yes.
Wow. Can AI also analyze images and videos, not just text?
Oh, definitely. Image and video analysis is a huge part of it.
Like to identify suspects.
Right, or to track their movements, say there's a hit and run.
Mm-hmm.
AI could analyze footage from multiple cameras to identify the vehicle, piece together its route.
That's incredible. And I've heard that AI can also predict where crimes might happen.
You're thinking of predictive analytics.
Yeah, that's it.
That uses historical data to forecast where criminals might strike next.
Wow. So they're basically trying to stay one step ahead of the criminals.
That's the idea.
But doesn't that raise some concerns about, becoming a bit too Big Brother-ish?
Of course. It's a slippery slope, isn't it?
It is. Where do we draw the line? How much power is too much power when it comes to law enforcement?
That's the debate, right?
It is. And it's one we need to have as this technology becomes more powerful. Okay, so we've talked about how AI can be used to prevent crime.
Right.
And how it's changing the way police operate in real time.
Mm-hmm.
But what about solving crimes after they've happened? How is AI being used in investigations?
Oh, that's a whole other area where AI is making a huge impact.
Well, like what?
Well, for starters, think about all those crime shows you've seen.
Okay, yeah.
The grainy security footage, the blurry license plates.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, AI can enhance those images.
Really?
Yeah, it can make a blurry license plate readable or identify a suspect from grainy footage.
Wow, that's amazing. It seems like magic.
It's pretty close. And then there's DNA evidence.
DNA, right.
AI is being used to analyze complex DNA mixtures.
What do you mean by mixtures?
Samples that contain DNA from multiple people.
Oh, I see. Like in a sexual assault case.
Exactly. AI can help separate out those individual DNA profiles.
That must be incredibly helpful.
It is. It's helping to solve crimes that might have gone unsolved in the past.
And what about all the digital evidence that's out there these days? Emails, texts, social media.
That's another area where AI is crucial.
How so?
AI algorithms can sift through mountains of digital data.
Looking for what?
Patterns, connections, anything that might be relevant to the investigation.
So it's like a digital detective, piecing together clues from all this data.
That's a good way to put it.
Are there any other examples of how AI is being used in forensic science?
Oh, tons. AI systems are being developed to analyze crime scene photos.
Wow. Like to figure out what happened.
Exactly. They can potentially determine a cause of death.
Even in cases where it's not obvious.
Right. Like poisoning, for example.
It's amazing how far this technology's come.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that AI should be a tool to assist investigators.
Not replace them.
Right. Human judgment and oversight are still crucial.
Absolutely. We don't want to live in a world where machines are making all the decisions. Speaking of machines making decisions, have you heard about ChatGPT-4?
Oh, yeah, the language model.
That's the one. How could that be used in criminal investigations?
Well, think about what it does.
It can write, like, poems and essays.
Right, but it can also analyze text data, understand context, generate hypotheses.
So it could help with things like analyzing witness statements or online communications.
Exactly. It could even potentially identify suspects or predict criminal behavior.
That's pretty wild. But doesn't that raise even more ethical concerns?
Of course. We need to be very careful about how we use this technology.
Okay, let's move on to another area where AI is being used in the justice system. Pretrial risk assessment tools.
That's a controversial one.
I've heard about these tools, like Compass, right?
That's one of them, yes.
And they're used to predict whether a suspect is likely to reoffend.
Right. And those predictions are then used to make decisions about bail, sentencing, parole.
So it's basically an algorithm deciding whether someone should be locked up or set free.
That's the gist of it.
That's pretty heavy stuff.
It is, and it's very controversial.
I can imagine. What are some of the concerns people have about these tools?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is bias.
Bias? How so?
These algorithms are often trained on historical crime data.
Okay.
And that data can reflect existing racial and socioeconomic disparities in the justice system.
So even if the algorithm itself isn't biased, the data it's learning from might be.
Exactly. And that can lead to some very unfair outcomes.
Right. It's like perpetuating those existing inequalities.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of transparency.
Transparency.
These algorithms are often proprietary.
So we don't know how they work.
Right. It's a black box. We feed in data, and it spits out a prediction, but we don't know what's happening inside.
That's scary. How can we trust a system we don't understand?
That's the problem. And there have been studies showing that these tools aren't always accurate. One study found that Compass was only accurate in predicting recidivism about 60% of the time.
60%. That's barely better than flipping a coin.
It raises serious questions about whether we should be using these tools to make decisions that can have such a profound impact on people's lives.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we rely too heavily on AI to predict criminal behavior, are we essentially creating a society where people are judged not on their actions, but on their perceived potential for criminality?
It's a disturbing thought, isn't it? And it's something we need to be very cautious about.
Absolutely. This whole conversation is making me think about bias in a whole new way.
Bias is a huge issue, especially when it comes to AI.
It's like, how can we be sure that AI isn't just perpetuating the biases that already exist in the justice system?
That's the challenge, right? We need to be incredibly vigilant.
So how do we do that? How do we make sure AI is used fairly?
Well, for starters, we need to acknowledge that bias exists.
Right, we can't ignore it.
And we need to be very careful about the data we use to train these AI systems.
So the data needs to be diverse and representative of the population.
Exactly. If we train an AI system on biased data, it's going to learn those biases and perpetuate them.
That makes sense. But isn't there also the possibility that the algorithms themselves could be biased, even if the data is good?
Oh, absolutely. The algorithms are designed by humans, and humans have biases.
So those biases could be baked into the algorithms themselves.
It's definitely a possibility. We need to be aware of that and try to mitigate it.
So how do we do that? How do we make sure the algorithms themselves are fair?
Well, one way is to have diverse teams of people working on these algorithms.
Different backgrounds, different perspectives.
Right. That can help to identify and address potential biases.
That makes sense. And we also need to be constantly monitoring these systems, right?
Absolutely. We can't just set them and forget them. We need to be constantly evaluating them, making sure they're working as intended.
And that they're not producing biased outcomes.
Exactly. It's an ongoing process.
It sounds like a huge challenge, but it's one we need to face head on if we want AI to be a force for good in the justice system.
I completely agree. The potential benefits are enormous, but we need to be very careful about how we develop and use this technology.
So we've talked about the potential benefits of AI in crime fighting, but we also need to be realistic about the potential downsides.
Absolutely.
What are some of the things we need to be wary of?
Well, as we've discussed, bias is a major concern.
Right.
We need to make sure AI isn't being used to reinforce existing inequalities.
And we need to be mindful of the potential for AI to be used for mass surveillance.
Absolutely. We don't want to live in a society where our every move is being tracked and analyzed.
That sounds like a dystopian nightmare.
It does, doesn't it?
And then there's the whole issue of data privacy.
Right. These AI systems are collecting and analyzing vast amounts of data about us.
And we need to make sure that data is being used responsibly.
Exactly. We need strong privacy protections in place.
And what about the potential for AI to erode our civil liberties?
That's a very real concern.
If we're not careful, AI could be used to suppress dissent, to target certain groups, to control people's lives in ways we never imagined.
It's a slippery slope, and we need to be very aware of it.
So it seems like there's a lot of potential for both good and bad when it comes to AI and crime.
That's the reality of it. It's a powerful technology, and it can be used for both positive and negative purposes.
And it's up to us to make sure it's used for good.
Right. We need to be thoughtful, we need to be careful, and we need to have these difficult conversations about the ethical implications of this technology.
Absolutely. This isn't something we can just ignore.
No, it's too important. The future of our society is at stake.
Well said. It's clear that using AI in crime fighting is incredibly complex.
It is.
There are amazing potential benefits,
Definitely.
but also significant risks we need to be aware of.
We can't afford to be naive about it.
And it's a conversation that needs to keep happening.
Absolutely. We need to keep talking about this, keep raising awareness, keep pushing for responsible development and use of this technology.
Because ultimately, it's about more than just fighting crime.
It is.
It's about protecting our values, our rights, our freedoms.
It's about the kind of society we want to live in.
Exactly. And that's something worth fighting for.
I couldn't agree more. And it goes even deeper than that. Imagine they bring a suspect in for questioning.
Okay.
The AI is analyzing everything. Their micro-expressions.
Micro-expressions.
Those tiny, involuntary facial movements.
Okay.
Tone of voice, posture, everything.
So it's like a lie detector, but way more advanced.
Kind of. If the AI flags the suspect as potentially deceptive, It could influence the investigators.
Even if the suspect is innocent.
Exactly. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The AI thinks the suspect is lying, so the investigators start treating them like they're lying.
That's a scary thought.
It is. And it's not just in interrogations. What if AI is used to analyze your social media posts, to assess your character, your potential for criminal behavior?
So like if I post something controversial, the AI might flag me as a threat.
Exactly. Even if you've never committed a crime.
That's crazy.
It is. And it's happening. Companies are already using AI to analyze social media for things like creditworthiness.
So it's not a huge leap to imagine it being used for criminal risk assessment.
Not at all. That's why these conversations are so important.
We need to be aware of the potential dangers.
Absolutely. Before this technology gets out of hand.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about how AI is changing crime labs.
The world of forensics is being transformed.
I've read about that. Automating tasks, analyzing complex evidence, generating new leads. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's pretty incredible. Think about all the time it used to take to analyze fingerprints or DNA samples.
Oh yeah, hours spent comparing prints looking for matches.
Right. Now AI can do that in a fraction of the time. It can scan massive databases, flag potential matches, and free up human analysts for more complex work.
So it's not about replacing human experts.
Not at all.
It's about making them more efficient.
Exactly. And it's not just speed. AI is also helping to analyze evidence that's too complex for humans to handle.
Like what?
Well, take DNA analysis, for example. AI can help separate out individual DNA profiles from a sample that contains DNA from multiple people.
That's amazing.
It's a game changer, especially in sexual assault cases.
I can see that. What about other areas of forensic analysis?
Oh, AI is being used everywhere. Analyzing digital data, trace evidence, blood spatter patterns.
So it's giving investigators a whole new set of tools.
And helping them get more accurate results.
That's incredible. And I've heard that AI can even generate new leads.
It's true. AI can analyze data and find connections that human investigators might miss.
Like what?
Well, say a suspect's cell phone data places them near a crime scene, or their social media activity reveals a connection to the victim.
Things like that?
Exactly. AI can put those pieces together and point investigators in the right direction.
It's like AI is a detective's best friend.
It's becoming an indispensable tool.
But we have to be careful, right?
Always.
AI is powerful, and it could be misused.
Absolutely. We need to make sure it's used ethically and responsibly.
No AI supervillains.
Hopefully not.
We've covered a lot of ground today. From AI's role in crime prevention and investigation to the potential risks of bias, surveillance, and the loss of our privacy.
It's a complex issue.
It is, but it's an important one.
We need to be having these conversations.
Absolutely. Now let's look ahead. What does the future hold for AI and justice?
That's a big question, but I think it's safe to say that AI is going to play an even bigger role in the justice system in the years to come.
How so?
Well, think about all the things we've already discussed.
Predictive policing, AI-powered crime labs, risk assessment tools.
Exactly. As those technologies advance, they're going to have a profound impact on how we define and administer justice.
So what are some of the potential benefits of this AI-driven future?
Well, in a best-case scenario, AI could help us create a more just and equitable society.
How?
Imagine a world where AI helps us prevent crime before it happens.
That would be amazing.
Where AI-powered investigations lead to quicker and more accurate resolutions.
And fewer wrongful convictions.
Exactly. Where sentencing decisions are based on a holistic assessment of the individual, not just on algorithms or past data.
A more individualized approach.
Exactly. The goal would be to promote rehabilitation and reintegration, not just punishment.
That sounds like a much fairer system.
It does, doesn't it?
But it's also kind of idealistic, isn't it?
It is. And there are definitely challenges we need to address.
Like what?
Well, for starters, we need to make sure AI doesn't perpetuate existing biases.
Right.
We need to be very careful about the data we use to train these systems.
And about the algorithms themselves.
Exactly. We need to make sure they're designed with fairness and equity in mind.
And we need transparency.
Absolutely. We need to be able to see how these systems are making decisions.
So we can hold them accountable.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of human oversight.
Right. We can't just let algorithms run the show.
No. We need to make sure humans are still in the loop, making the final decisions.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But it's important. The choices we make now will determine what the future of justice looks like.
And it's not just about justice.
No.
It's about the kind of society we want to live in.
That's the bigger picture.
Okay, let's zoom in on one specific area where AI is already having a huge impact. Cybersecurity.
Cybercrime is a growing threat, and AI is becoming a key weapon in the fight against it.
How so?
Well, for starters, think about threat detection.
Okay.
AI algorithms can analyze network traffic, system logs, all sorts of data,
Looking for what?
unusual patterns, anything that might indicate a cyber attack.
So like a sudden spike in data transfers.
Exactly, or login attempts from unusual locations.
That-
AI can also analyze the content of emails and other communications.
To detect phishing scams.
Right. Phishing scams are getting more sophisticated, but AI can often spot them.
By looking at the language, the sender information, the links.
Exactly. It's like having a digital security guard constantly on the lookout for threats.
That's a good analogy. And what about after an attack has happened?
That's where incident response comes in.
Incident response.
AI can help security teams respond quickly and effectively to contain the damage.
So it can help isolate infected systems, block malicious traffic, things like that.
Exactly. It can automate a lot of the tasks involved in incident response.
Freeing up human experts to focus on the most critical aspects.
Exactly. And then there's digital forensics.
The digital forensics.
Investigating cybercrimes, collecting evidence.
Right.
AI can help investigators analyze huge amounts of digital data.
Like hard drives, smartphones, cloud storage.
Right. It can find evidence that might be hidden or difficult to find manually.
Like a needle in a haystack.
Exactly. AI can also help reconstruct the sequence of events in a cyber attack.
Like putting together a puzzle.
Right. And it can help identify the perpetrators and track down stolen data.
It's amazing what AI can do.
It is. It's becoming an essential tool in the fight against cybercrime.
But as with any powerful tool, we need to be careful how we use it.
Absolutely. AI itself could be used for malicious purposes.
That's a scary thought.
It is. We need to be aware of that risk.
And we need to make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly in cybersecurity.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. We've explored how AI is being used in so many different areas of our lives, from fighting crime to protecting our computers.
It's incredible how quickly this technology is evolving.
It is. And it's clear that AI is going to have a profound impact on our future.
The question is, what kind of impact will it be? Will it be a force for good or for bad?
That's up to us to decide. We need to be thoughtful about how we develop and use AI.
We need to be aware of the risks.
But we also need to be optimistic about the possibilities.
I agree. AI has the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems.
If we use it wisely.
Exactly.
Our two technical experts, Simon and Tom, will be discussing this subject in their weekly review on Sunday. But in the meantime, tune in tomorrow for another great true crime episode. I was joking about them being technical experts, by the way.